We have almost reached towards the end of the chapter, and in this part of the chapter we will talking about how we visualize the nation. All right. In this part of the chapter, we'll be discussing all those figureheads that were used to visualize the idea of a nation state. All right, be it in print, that is in the currency, or be it in the forms of statue. Okay. It is easy enough to represent a ruler through a portrait or a statue, all right? Whereas a country, it is represented as if it were a person. That means a country was personified. Okay, it was represented as if it were a person, and often it was done through a female figure. All right, nations were portrayed as female figures. Like very oftenly, India is known as Bharat Mata. All right, so that representation, that personification of a nation as a female figure. Okay, the female allegory for the nation was known as christened as Marianne in France, a popular Christian name that emphasized the concept of people's homeland. So this we had already seen while we were beginning with this chapter, that the female allegories for France it was Marianne, for Germany it was Germany will be seeing in the next slide. All right. Her features were inspired by liberty and the republic, the red cap, the tricolor, and the cockade. Okay, so ironically, the irony here is that women were not allowed to vote. All right, women were not allowed to participate in the formation of the so-called nation head, of the so-called nation state. But women, when it came to the visualization of the nation, when it came to the representation of nation through personification, it was the female figure that was chosen. Okay, this is the biggest irony. All right, in France, the figure, remember the name was Marianne, the female figure of France, red cap, the tricolor. You can see the figure, the dress that she's wearing in this picture. It's representing the tricolor of the national flag of France. Germania is the female allegory of Germany, representing the republic and the liberty. So you can see towards the right hand side. This is sort of a war figure, okay, warhead. All right, a female warhead. So liberty, justice, and the republic were all personified as female beings. Remember the irony that women were not allowed to participate in the suffrage movement. That is, women were not allowed to participate in choosing the electoral representatives. But when it was decided to visualize the nation, it was through these female figures. Now we'll be talking about nationalism and imperialism. This is the last part of the chapter where we will be discussing some more ideas of nationalism, how it came forward, and how both nationalism and imperialism, they both worked hand in hand, all right, especially in the 20th century, and how Europe, through the advantages of nationalism and being a very powerful imperial power, was able to capture a lot of Europe. Not only a lot of Europe, but almost 2/3 of the world. So let's find out. Europe was plagued by chaos and turbulence between the 18th and mid-19th centuries, but there was a fundamental shift in the concept of nationalism after 1871. Many nations, they became intolerant of each other, and they competed, for control of territory. And it was always England that came as the forefront. All right, because England had a very huge. England was a huge imperial power. Okay, it had a lot of territory, it had a lot of resources, it had a lot of power. All right. So major European countries such as Russia, Austria, Hungary, Germany, England, they began to use European nationalism in order to achieve their imperial goals. Okay, imperialism is the strategy for increasing a country's power by colonization, by military force or other means. So the power of nation state, the power of nationalism that had arisen, that had arisen in Europe, that was manipulated, that was exploited by these European countries. They started competing each other for power. So they were like, I want to increase my national power, but simultaneously I want to be above others. All right, so this power of nationalism, it actually became a game of, or a power of a competition of power. All right, a competition of power. So all these nations, various European nations, they started competing with each other, that they each each individual nation wanted to be powerful. Each individual nation wanted to have their nationalistic fervor at the forefront, all right, at the expense of others nationalistic fervors being down, all right, being lowered. So they wanted to increase the imperial goals. Imperial goals includes colonization, means the countries that won their territory, military force, the kind of army that they forged, and other means of suppression, obviously. So imperialism is the use of armed force to rule the territory of a region or a country. So all these nations, they started competing with each other for the dominance of their nation's nationalistic idea over others. In 1914, imperialism and nationalism worked together to bring Europe to its needs. How? By the World War. All right, the World War I started. So what happened is that the countries, they started fighting with each other. They wanted to expand their colonization, right? They wanted to expand their imperial power. So some countries, they had this debate that suppose two countries have occupied one area, all right. So some country A is saying that this is whole of this is my area, while country B is saying no, whole of this is my area. So a war started on the pretext of this simple thing. And then they started forming allies, all right. A country started forming, calling other countries to its rescue, and said that let's go on a war because this person is bad, this country is bad, and we want our so you form an alliance with me, and I'll make sure that our nationalistic fervor is rising. We are in the dominant state, all right. While the other side also had the similar agenda. So the whole agenda, the whole conclusion was for the role of attaining power. Okay. Many of the world's countries that had been conquered by European powers in the 19th centuries, they began to rebel against imperial dominance. And then also these anti-imperial movements started. So all these revolutionaries that were first, working against overthrowing the monarchical power, the monarchy, now they started overthrowing the imperial powers, because now that the monarchy had been tied with the parliament, and they were continuing to exploit others by expanding their colonial power. So now the idea of nationalistic fervor, that gained prominence to anti-imperial movements. So around the world there were this kind of movements, and they sought to establish their independent nation states, and they were motivated by a feeling of shared national identity in the face of imperialism. So people across the world, they evolved their own unique varieties of nationalism in response to European concepts of nationalism. The concept of society being organized into nation states became widely accepted as natural and universal. So what happened was that since the European countries, they were exploiting the other countries of the world, and they were trying to conquer themselves. They were trying to, maintain their stance as the imperial power. The other countries, they started revolting against these imperial powers. And whereas overall this was the normal stance now, that these are the ruling countries and they are going to rule over us by dividing us into their nation states. Nationalism in Balkan countries such as these countries. Okay. Balkan countries such as Romania, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Croatia, Greece, Bosnia Herzegovina, Slovenia, Serbia, and Montenegro. Okay, these used to be the part of the Balkan area, as you can see here in this map. All right, it is almost near to the Turkish side. That means it is towards the Ottoman Empire. All right, the sense of nationalism grew stronger after 1871. All right, when people started revolting against the monarchy, and when the monarchy formed their alliance with the parliament, and then they started subjugating people on the pretext of increasing the colonial power, on the pretext of increasing the imperial power, then the people started realizing that the nationalistic agenda should be put forward in the form of anti-imperial movements. So this sense of nationalism, it grew more intensively, more strongly after 1871, and as a result, the countries in the Balkan area, they also became a source of nationalist unrest in Europe, with a wide range of geographical and ethnic diversity. As you can see, so many different ethnic diversity, so many different races, so many different languages, so many different cultures. So people from the Balkan countries, they were called Slavs. A common term was given to them, Slavs. The Ottoman Empire was the Turkish, the modern day Turkey. But the Ottoman Empire then was ruling a considerable portion of this Balkan area. All right, the Ottoman Empire was actually had conquered a lot of southern Europe. Okay, a lot of Western Asia and some part of northern Africa. All right, so the Ottoman Empire, it ruled over a considerable portion of the Balkans, while Russia and Austria, they ruled over other areas. So romantic nationalism, that means nationalism through the use of literature, arts, culture, music, it was gaining popularity around the world, right? So the breakup of the Ottoman Empire in the region, it created a volatile situation in which each state was envious of the other, and they sought to attain independence at the expense of the other. All right, people began to revolt against the Balkans, and the Ottoman emperors attempted but failed to resolve the situation. So what happened? This situation, this entire situation, was ultimately solved in the World War at the end of the World War One. Okay, so what happened is that in the Ottoman Empire, these individual states were starting fighting for their own independence. They wanted to to be free from the Turkish Empire, to be free from the Ottoman rule. Okay, and they sought to attain independence at the expense of the other. So no matter what is happening to the other country, but our nationalistic goals wants us to be free. Our nationalistic goals wants us to be independent. People began to revolt across the Balkans, and ultimately the Ottoman emperors, they were unable to withstand. They were unable to counter this unrest that was going on. Romantic nationalism, therefore, was as it was gaining popularity, and the breakup of the Ottoman Empire in the region, that created a volatile situation. Okay, so people began to revolt against the Balkans, and the Ottoman emperors failed. They failed to resolve the situation. So Slavic nationalists began to spread history in order to instill a sense of belonging to defeat the imperialism. So what happened when the Ottoman emperors, they were failing to gain prominence over the Balkan region. So the Slavic nationalists, the people belonging to all these Balkan areas, they started propagating their nationalistic idea through instilling a sense of belongingness, that we are one nation state and we need the Ottoman Empire to go away. All right. Various nationalities, they declared their independence one by one through battles. So battles began to happen, and all those countries, those lists that you saw, Croatia, Greece, okay, all those countries, one by one, they started declaring their independence. And how they, both supreme powers, Russia, Germany, England, Austria, Hungary, they were involved in gaining influence in the Balkans. So these Balkan countries, they wanted to gain their independence from the Ottoman Empire, but the European supreme powers such as Russia, Germany, England, they wanted to they wanted to keep a hold on their imperial power by, let's say that we will do away with the Ottoman Empire, but we want our colonial power to be imperial power to be, on the forefront. So we will now keep a tab on these Balkan areas. So now the powers, the supreme powers, they started beginning fighting with each other, and ultimately a lot of contention, a lot of disagreement happened, and that was one of the reasons that the First World War in 1914 started. So that example that I gave you, that country A wants this part and country B wants one part, that was leading to this situation in the Balkan area. The Balkans, they wanted their independence from the Ottoman Empire. They wanted to fight for their own individualistic nation state, even at the expense of the other. But the imperial powers of the Europe, Russia, Germany, England, Austria, Hungary, they wanted the Ottoman Empire to go away, but not for the independence of the Balkan countries, but instead to keep on increasing their imperial power, to keep on increasing their foothold, their stance over the Balkan area. All right, so that then the fight between these countries, the contention, the argument, the dispute between these countries over the ownership of the Balkan areas, that became one of the major reasons, one of the major causes of the First World War in 1914. With this, we have reached the end of the chapter. Now, let's discuss some questions. To discuss the fall of the Ottoman Empire, there is a simple, sort of flowchart that I'm giving you. That Ottoman Empire, it was ruling Europe, some parts of Europe, from the 14th to the 20th century. All right, and it was covering a lot of areas in the southern Europe. Okay, in the West Asia, as well as the northern Africa. the Balkan areas, they wanted to gain their independence, but from the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman rulers, they started, they could not handle the unrest when the Balkans started, you know, demanding their rights. Okay, but then the European superpowers, all right, the European imperial powers, all right, they came to the forefront. Russia, uh, um, Austria, Hungary, England, all right, they came to the forefront, but not to rescue the Balkan areas, but rather to dismantle the Ottoman Empire and to establish or to extend their imperial power over the Balkan area. So a dispute between these countries happened because each one wanted, their supremacy to behold. Dispute happened. World War One happened. All right, and ultimately, towards the end of World War One in 1922, all right, in 1922, with the Treaty of Versailles, the Ottoman Empire was finally done away with, and the different parts of the Balkan area were either given to different areas, or some areas they even gained independence. So this is like a rough patchwork, a rough, a discussion, a rough, contestation towards what happened, and how the Ottoman Empire came to its end. Summarize the attributes of a nation as Renan, Ernest Renan, if you remember, understands them, and why, in his view, are nations important. So, Ernest Nation was another important, propagator of the idea of nationalism. All right, and if you may remember from one of the earlier classes that we have had, he gave three important characteristics as to what or what consists a nationalistic idea. The first one was there has to be a long past of some history, all right, some long past of sacrifice, devotion, okay, sacrifice, devotion. So what he is talking about, there has to be some history, all right, some common origin, some common descent of people under one national state, one nation state. The second, that there has to be some heroic past, some glory, okay, some glory upon which the people could take pride, all right, and this pride, this heroic past, this glory could then become the social capital, social capital upon which the people could gain a sense of unity, all right. And then the last thing that he characterized was that a nation state should have its own government, okay. So Ernest Renan, he established the idea of nationalism through three important points. The first part was that the particular people living in the particular territory that is supposed to call itself an independent nation state, that should have a long past of sacrifice and emotion, devotion. Those people should have a shared history, should have a shared culture. All right, there should be a heroic past, there should be some glory, some pride, and from that pride, that social capital, that sense of unity could come. Those people could come together as one people under one nation state, and ultimately there has to be one government ruling over them. All right. So these were the attributes of a nation as Ernest Renan understood them, and in his view, nations were important because nations gave that notion of culture, that separate identity. All right, and that is different from the monarchical one, because then this nationalism is coming under one rule. All right, there are no kingdoms, there are no kings ruling over. It may be monarchy, all right, that is ruling under one nation state, but ultimately those people are one. They are not disparate sects, or they are not disparate small kingdoms that owe allegiance to some superpower. All right, there is one nationalism, there is one nation state, there is one concept of nationalism, and he listed all these points as the important characteristics. Then we have to discuss the importance of language and popular traditions in the creation of national identity. So we know that arts, okay, music, all right, folklore, all right, the stories, the dance, all right, the singing, okay, and of course literature. So these were the important proponents. All right, they started, they started stressing, they started highlighting the importance of language and popular traditions, because with the advent of the print culture, all right, people started voicing their own opinions. Okay, they started their voicing their own opinions against absolutism, against monarchy, all right, and against absolute power, all right. So they also wanted the idea of a nation state the idea of a nation state to overrule this idea of absolute power. They wanted the idea of nation state to come to the forefront, all right. So people, they got united. Okay, people got united through reading these pieces of literature, through viewing these dances, and to hearing these kind of singings, folk tales. There was music, there was art, there was paintings, all right, all the pictorial representations, so representation of every sort. And all of these were popular, and all of these were emphasizing on the kind of language, all right, because they were obviously being published in the regional dialects, all right. So they were stressing on the creation of national identity, and they were promoting this national identity, all right, this power of having our own national identity. So these were the importance. This is how arts, music, folklore, dancing, literature, everything, all right, the idea of romanticism, the idea of the romantic, all right, this is how it helped to propagate the creation of a national identity. With all this discussion, I hope this chapter is clear to you. The rise of nationalism in Europe is a lengthy chapter, all right, and there are many different and new concepts coming together, all there in one particular chapter. So please, I want you all to take a deep breath and to go through each of the concepts one by one to get a very, visualize the kind of idea that I'm trying to talk about, and, picture them, try to get an idea of how things are happening, how things are taking place. Try to perceive the kind of logic by which people used to work, in those times, all right. And now that we have come to the quick revision, let's look at some important points that sums up this chapter. So first of all, we have the concept of nationalism, that is the core concept, and it's a sense of shared identity and belonging to a specific place. The idea of a culture, common culture, the idea of a common language, etc. Okay, Frederick Soreau's worldview, if you may remember that French artist, he painted a series of 4 prints depicting his vision of a future, depicting his vision of a utopia made up of democratic and socialist republics. Those pictures, the gods were over the clouds, and people were carrying the national flags, and there was the Statue of Liberty. The French Revolution and the idea of nation, various measures and practices, such as the concepts of la patrie, that is fatherland, and la citoyen, that is the citizen. This was introduced. The idea of equality, fraternity, liberty was introduced. Napoleon, though he wanted to he destroyed democracy in France, and he wanted to get away with the absolute power, but he himself was a monarch. All right. The irony is that he himself was a monarch, but his monarchy was a good one, in the sense that he came about a lot of laws that were equal in nature, equal laws for everybody. Okay, and he with Napoleon Bonaparte, France saw a very drastic rise in its nation state. Napoleonic Code of 1814 abolished all privileges based on birth, established equality before the law, and guaranteed the right of property. So very modern in his laws, very modern in his views. The origins of European nationalism: from the French Revolution, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, they also started gaining a sense of national idea. They were separated into kingdoms, duchies, and cantons, and each with their own rulers. But when nationalism started in French Revolution, they also started gaining a sense of independent nation idea. The purpose of liberal nationalism: national liberalism was primarily an ideology and a movement of the 19th century. National liberal goals were the pursuit of individual and economic freedom, individual as well as economic freedom, and in keeping uh, the sight of national sovereignty. The age of revolutions that happened in 1830 and 1848, a lot of countries in Europe, they started revolting against the, the monarchy, and they started revolting against the anti-imperial powers. So the Bourbon kings were disposed by liberal revolutionaries in July 1830, who founded a constitutional monarchy commanded by Louis Philippe. Greek War of Independence from the Ottoman Empire, the July Revolution prompted an uprising in Brussels, which resulted in Belgium succeeding from the Netherlands and United Kingdoms, and Greeks fought for the freedom in 1821. And in the coming few years, Greece then gained independence and was recognized as an independent nation from the Ottoman Empire. National feelings and romantic imagination. Romanticism, the idea of art, the idea of art, music, folklore. This was very prominent. Was a cultural movement that aimed to foster a specific type of nationalistic spirit. Development of nationalistic feelings was also aided by the use of language. Okay, then we have the liberal revolution that happened in Germany, in Frankfurt. A huge number of political organizations, they came together and they said that we are going to form our own national assembly. The parliament was then dominated by the middle class, and a substantial number of women took part in the liberal movement. So there was still a monarch at the head, but that monarch was in consolidation with this parliament, was working in consolidation with this parliament, and that is how the system of monarchy, okay, plus parliament, so that a people's representation is also there in the formation of the government that came about in Frankfurt, Germany. Germany's formation, William the First, the Prussian king, was proclaimed German emperor in 1871 of Germany. That was how Germany gained its independence. Italy gained its unification in the middle of the 19th century. Italy was divided into 7 republics, out of which only one, Sardinia Piedmont, was ruled by an Italian-based dynasty. Others were ruled by Austria or popes or Spain. So Giuseppe Mazzini, he founded the Young Italy Secret Society organization in 1830s. Then there was Garibaldi, and there was, of course, Chief Minister Cavour was at the helm of the movement. Sardinia Piedmont defeated Austrian forces, and with the help of Victor Emmanuel II, after he defeated the popes, he was proclaimed the King of Italy in 1861. Unification of Britain as Great Britain. There was no British country before 17th century, okay, but Great Britain was the paradigm of a nation. What consolidated Great Britain? England, and England was the ruling one. It dominated two countries. It dominated Scotland and Ireland. Okay. As the country's riches, prominence, and power expanded, it got more powerful. Visualizing the nation. The artists, they visualized the nation in the allegory of female figures. The personification was to be done by a female figure. So artists in the 18th and 19th centuries, they depicted countries as individuals and nations as female beings. Female characters, they portray themes such as liberty, fraternity, equality, republic, okay, during the French Revolution. All right. Then nationalism and imperialism in Europe after 1871, there was a fundamental shift in the concept of nationalism. People started revolting against the imperial powers, and imperialism, that became a strategy for the countries. So the superpowers in Europe, they started competing with each other on the pretext of colonization. Who will hold more countries in their under their rule? Who will have the greater military force and other resources? In the Balkan region, that was the most tense region. All right, in the Ottoman that was ruled by the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire, it ignited the Balkans. They bolstered themselves throughout. The Ottoman rulers were ultimately unable to subdue it. But who came to the rescue? The European rulers. And what did they do? Instead of letting the Balkan areas be free, they started having contestations at who will hold which area. And this contestation, it actually gave rise to the First World War. So 19th century through modernization and internal reforms, and this was the biggest main reason for the First World War. The concept of nation states was then widely seen as both natural and universal. Alright, natural in the sense that a country is having to have its own national integrity being formed, and universal in the sense that it still had to compete with other nations for its own supremacy. Alright, so with this discussion we come to the end of this lengthy chapter. There are so many concepts here, but I hope that you have understood each one of them. If there is any confusion, you know, take a pause and think about the concept that I have been talking to you, and try to visualize them. Try to visualize the idea of Napoleon, that although he wanted to do away with the idea of absolutism, he was the monarch. Yet he was a good monarch. How? Because he did away with all the feudal systems, he abolished all the feudal systems, but he was a champion of the citizen. He gave equal representation to all. All right, he did not call himself a king. So those kind of monarchy, those were the agenda of the nationalism. Those were the agenda of the nation states to exist. That if this kind of monarchy exists, it is okay, but at least we want a personal representation. That personal representation came about via parliament. But there were some European superpowers that they wanted the stronghold of all the nations. Why? Because they wanted to be the greater imperial power, and through this contestation of who will hold which territory, and each of the superpower claiming itself to be the better or the bigger superpower, there was a huge contestation, especially over the Balkan area, that led to the First World War. So I hope this chapter, Rise of Nationalism in Europe, is clear to you. Thank you so much for joining me here on Study Room. And for other discussions, for other chapters, please stay tuned. Take care and study well. Thank you.